Hello.
Hi, this episode is about dealing with emotions and how we communicate when we're feeling a lot of them.
If you do like these episodes, please like, subscribe, all the good things. And if you'd like content early and exclusive content, get a membership at glitterandcatlitter.com or our YouTube channel. Enjoy. Glitter and Cat Litter. So I'm not quite an angry person. I would consider myself a sad person, which sounds so sad. That sounds so depressing.
Yeah, you're just a depressing sad
I'm
person.
not a depressing person. I'm not a depressed person, but I definitely get
As she
sad.
says with a smile on her face.
I definitely get sad more than I get angry. I don't think I'm an angry person. I can get angry, but I don't even get angry. I get stern.
No, you get angry.
I do?
Don't try to hide that. Yeah, you get angry.
When?
But it's not. It's a long journey to get you angry.
I don't even know the last time I was angry.
The last time you yelled out of aggression.
I do remember that.
Yeah. I don't know the situation, but I do remember you yelling and I'm like, "Huh, okay, cool." But I would agree that you're far more I don't even call it sad. It's like when you're like, no, what is the shoot? I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed.
Oh, that's the worst.
You're the disappointed more than you are the mad.
That's so sad.
Not really. I mean, that's a better place to be.
Has anyone ever said that to you? It's the worst.
Maybe, but not really. I feel like most people around would get more mad than they would disappointed. Occasionally there was disappointment, but no one was ever clever enough to slam that line in.
Oh, I've had two circumstances, and if you're listening, you know who you are. It was rough. One was with a friend, and that one was like the worst. Bad memories that I'm not even going to bring up. Anyway, I get very emotional very easily, very quickly, and a lot. And I used to be very afraid of showing that. And more recently, I'm just I let it happen because.
But why were you afraid to show it?
I just kind of felt like I had to bottle it up.
Well, where were you? To me or?
Anyone.
Okay. So just your whole life, it's all bottled up in there.
Yeah.
Just like a soda can you're shaking.
Exactly. And you always say to me, you don't have to be so strong. You don't have to pretend to be so strong. Just let it be. Let it out. Which in turn is usually bad for both of us because I get sad. And then a lot of times it's just when you say things out loud, a lot of the time it does not make a lot of sense. And then in our circumstance, this is usually at night when we're winding down after the day. We're both tired, and then things get heated because you get slightly frustrated.
Oh, I'm real frustrated when I'm really tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that makes me more sad. And so it's just this circle of us before bed that
you're more sad that I'm frustrated?
Yeah.
Or you're more sad? I'm frustrated because I'm not asleep. I'm not frustrated at you.
But I don't know that. I feel like I'm frustrating you, therefore that makes me sad because I'm upsetting you with me being upset.
Okay.
It's just a bad circle.
This kind of goes back to when I was saying it's all the self-dialogue.
Right.
It's the inner dialogue of you. Yeah, you say it out loud. It sounds dumb, but usually it you go, oh wait, that doesn't make any sense. And I would just look at you and be like, I'm literally almost too tired to stay awake. This is why I'm frustrated.
So going to bed, it is the worst feeling ever to cry yourself to sleep. When you are upset and crying, and I have done it a lot. And it's not a lot recently, but
make it sound like I make you cry yourself to sleep all the time.
It's not you either. It's not you. It's life. When I look back at my life and I think of different times that I was sad or frustrated or even just staying up late to try to do homework back in school, I would cry because I was so upset that I like couldn't get this thing, or I was scared of a test the next day, or like, and then there's just relationships and like things and that happen and they weigh on you all day. And then at night I get sad. And like, this is not really like a current thing, but the past week I did get upset like 2 nights in a row. And it's not the actual crying yourself to sleep that is so upsetting. It's waking up the next morning is the worst feeling. Like you're stuffy, your eyes are puffy, like all of it is just a bad feeling. And going to bed sad. They always say don't go to bed angry. Going to bed sad is
Who's they?
I don't know, people. Quotes. People all say that. Like, figure out your stuff at the end of the day. Don't go to bed angry. And I think going to bed sad is just as bad.
And you're a poet and you didn't know it.
Although when it came out of my mouth, I knew it. So that was very exciting.
Okay. Well, glad you know it. I would say that is a very, like, to not be too, like, real. No, I'll be pretty real. But, like, I feel like everybody takes going to sleep and waking up way too for granted. For granted too much. Words that are having a hard time coming out of my mouth.
For sure.
But we definitely take it for granted. And I think that that's a terrifying thing to think about, but it's a very real thing to think about. So like you going to bed and being like, I'm pissed off at the person next to me, or I'm pissed off at whoever.
Or yourself.
And you're just, or yourself, and you're just going to let it go. That might be the last thing that happens. So that gets to be like a sticky situation of like, sometimes people's emotions are too all over the place to like do anything with it, but like, you got to do something. You have to be able to resolve it in some way. It doesn't mean that like your frustration is gone or your sadness is gone, but you have to resolve it in a way where you go, yes, I understand. I get the sadness, but I'm fine, or I'm okay, or we're fine, we're okay. We're going to just go to bed, and in the morning when we're clearer, if we need to, we can have another conversation about this.
Yeah.
Or whatever it might be, with whoever it might be. Because that's always the worst, is when it's like, you just get like ghosted and it's like, dude, come on. We were literally like, someone's feelings got hurt and it's like, you just resolve it. It's not worth, like, what happens if you go drive somewhere and then you're in an accident and it's like, you were just mad about something that wasn't even worth being mad about?
Yeah.
What if that was what made your mind too distracted for you to not be in the accident? Like, that's excessive that I'm going there, but like, that's so real. Like, why hold on to stuff to be so mad about something, to be like so like,
and to be right. Like that's the bad one. That's the worst feeling, when you're like holding on to something because you're like, I'm right, and it's easy to forget that like another person has different emotions and different feelings towards something. And yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I think I said this before, but the best way when you're talking to someone else to realize a healthier conversation, or to be able to continue to have a healthier conversation, even when emotions are crazy, remember that your perspective is not the only perspective. Also, your perspective is not the only right perspective in that exact situation.
Yeah.
Like, you can hear me say these words and I know that it's right, and you know that it's right, but it's the way you hear them versus me saying them. Yeah. And it doesn't matter. Or like a car drives by and I say, the blue car drove by, and you say, the car drove by. We're both exactly the same amount of right. It didn't change the correctness of both of our perceptions.
Yeah.
So you have to find the middle of that and where you two meet in it. And that's what the reality is. And
oftentimes it's just accepting the other person and being like, well, okay, that's your take on it, which it's the worst when that happens, when you're like, but I'm right. And you're like, I get that you think that. And it's like, Like not in those exact words, but it's like the acceptance of the other person of like, okay, my reality is this, your reality is this. Let's accept both. It's
Yeah.
like, but I'm right.
Yeah. I was telling you about that situation where I was overhearing a conversation about Disneyland and Disneyland passes and all of these like very frustrated or negative things that one of the people were saying. The person was saying, let me try that again. One of the people in the group was saying to the other people in the group that there was like all these things that were not true about the Disneyland passes and like basically shaping the way all of these people were viewing like the current state of like how passes work at Disney. And I'm just like, I'm doing something else, not in the conversation. I don't want to be in that conversation. But like I was sitting there and I'm like, that's wrong. That's also wrong. That's not true. That might be true, but I'm pretty sure it's not true. I literally have a pass and did that yesterday, which you just said I can't do. Not true as well. Like it was just a list of things and all these people were like in the group were like very bummed about it. And I was like, I can go resolve this because I have all of the correct answers, but it's not worth the like stress and conversation and whatever. And I know that person well enough to say that there's certain people that really like to hear themselves talk. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but they like to hear themselves talk and they'll just go down a path and maybe not check their facts before they just say everything. And sometimes that really ruins stuff for other people. So like if you know that you're someone who really likes to just talk, maybe fact check just a tiny bit before you totally slam something that you might actually love.
Yeah.
Because it's not fully worth being right when technically they were right in the situation, air quoting the right in that situation, but they weren't in any way because no one was going to fact check them. Mm-hmm. And honestly, mostly nobody cared in that conversation. It was more just like, oh, that's a bummer. And everybody moved on. Like it wasn't that big of a deal, but.
Side note, remember when the internet was not as accessible and you couldn't fact check things?
Oh man.
What a life.
Yeah. Remember, this is actually kind of a funny one. Remember when your dad would always try to like have like these really wild like space or tech facts?
Yeah.
And if you don't know, I am someone who I don't know that much about space or technology or all these things, but I do know more than Bob.
Yes.
And he would always be so proud, like chest up, like ready with these facts of things. And I'm literally sitting there and I go, none of this is true. Not even remotely. I'm like, Bob, where are we
and
going?
I would just sit there like listening to my dad, like, yeah, like that made him so happy.
Right. And I'm not going to sit there and I'm not going to be like, hey, sir, your facts are absolutely wrong. A couple times where it was something that was like a decision was going to be made, I would step in and be like, oh, no, that one's not actually, that's not very accurate. But like most of the time I also nodded and smiled because I'm like, this brings him so much joy. And I'm like, but a lot of the times too, he would say stuff and I'd pull my phone out that I didn't know the answer to. And I'd be like, Googling, is this? And I look it up. I'm like, he is literally telling me the opposite right now. Okay. Well, now actually I know something. I learned something.
Yeah.
Not directly from him, but from him. Great.
What a wild time that like you couldn't fact check people. Like I
know.
do remember that growing up, people would say the craziest stuff. And I'm like, is that for real? And probably not.
I know, right? Well, that also brings up like one of the things with our relationship that I find very funny, very interesting, and I don't like that I have the power of this.
Oh no, where are you going?
No, it's not bad. It's that I don't want to bleep it. Okay, so I'm gonna sound so about it. I'm a very good BSer.
Yeah.
Like very good. To the point of, if you've heard the phrase, don't BS a BSer, mm-hmm. I'm that person. Don't try to fact check me. Don't try to, or you fact check me actually, please. Don't try to bend the truth. Don't try to scheme around it. Just be straightforward with me, because I promise you, whether I show you or not, if you're trying to BS me, I 100% catch it.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with this one, you across from me at this table, you try so often to like be tough or bend like your emotions or pretend like it's not there. And I can smell it from a mile away. And I just like walk in, I'm like, just do it. Just be it. Don't try to be tough. Don't try to hide it. Just go. Full
The
send.
truth is, I'm not lying. You're always like, stop lying to me. And I'm not lying to you. I'm
It's
lying to
you.
me.
But I'm telling you
Yes.
to also not lie to you, because honestly, you're not making yourself tougher by saying that you're tougher. You're just really welling up your emotions, and it's only going to overflow worse later. But
This is true.
I was just thinking about, as we were saying this, I was thinking about that, and it's like, don't BS a BSer, because it's like, it's such a thing with me where it's like, I can feel it, I can sense it, I am aware of it when someone is trying to BS me.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, depending on the situation, I just smile and nod and I just let it go.
Yeah.
But like with you, I'm never going to let it go, which is
It's a
part
good
of
thing.
the emotions and everything in our relationship. But it's,
When we were having a conversation with two friends who are married, and we were talking about arguing.
you got it.
What?
Sorry, I'm adjusting her microphone because she's sitting like a foot off to the side of your microphone and you're talking
Thank you.
at the camera.
We were talking about arguing, and we were talking about discussions, and I do want to get into like how we deal with arguments or discussions. I can't really say fights, because it's like people phrase it that way all the time. Like, do you fight a lot? And I don't think of it as fights, but early on in our relationship, people would ask us that, and we're like, we never fight. And then we were having this discussion with our friends, and they were talking about how they each deal with discussion with each other. And they were like, how often do you fight? And I was like, no hesitation, once a week at least.
Yeah. And I looked at you like, I don't know that this is accurate. And then I was like trying to calculate in my head, and I'm like, maybe, I guess. But I'm like, what are we qualifying a fight?
Right. So that's the thing, is like, what do other people consider fighting? Because ours is just like heated discussion, I would say.
I'm Italian, okay? I can't stop the emotion from flowing when it flows. When it comes, it comes. When it goes, it goes. I don't know what to tell you.
Taylor used to go, I'm just passionate, okay?
There's so often, I mean, I still do that so much.
You do.
Where it's like the hardest thing for me with communication with people, especially people that don't know me or a bystander that just sees a moment of a conversation. And I see this less now in videos, but it was a lot more previously in videos, like me with you, where my tone sounds like I'm just pissed off.
Yeah.
And it's not, it literally could not be more opposite. I'm more like probably stoked or excited, but truly it's the passion of it just being like, I'm into it. I'm like, I'm amped. Or it's like, I'm frustrated that it's hard to explain.
Yeah.
But I'm not frustrated at anything other than it's hard for me to explain it to you.
And I fully understand that now. So it's like when we have discussions or heated discussions or fights, like I always think back to us at the mall when this had to be like 7 years ago now. And we were at the mall, and it was like around dinner time. I think it was later. It was like around 7 p.m. And we were both very hungry, and we were trying to figure out what we were going to eat for dinner. And that is like the hardest thing. It is one of the hardest decisions.
It was harder then than it is now.
Absolutely. But we had a friend of a friend walk by us, and we were fully involved with each other. Like we saw nothing around us, and we were in public, but we weren't like yelling. We were just talking.
No, I remember the The situation was we were going down an escalator. I'm below you on the escalator, hands crossed, just so frustrated. And I'm like looking at you like, just pick. And you were looking at me like, I can't. And like that was the situation that they crossed our paths. And
the guy that saw us, he went back to his friend or called his friend or something and was like, "Oh, I just saw Taylor and Nicole at the mall." And our friend was like, "Did you say hi?" And he's like, "No, they were fighting and it was really awkward. Like it was really uncomfortable." And so our friend was like, "That's super weird. Like what?" And so he calls us and he's like, "Hey, so-and-so just saw you at the mall. Are you guys okay? He said you guys were fighting." And we both started cackling, like laughing so hard because we were like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, it was like 5 minutes ago. What were you guys talking about?" Like, because our friend knows us very well. And he was like, "What were you guys talking about?" And we're like, "We're trying to figure out what we want for dinner."
And he was like, "Oh, okay. Well, did you decide yet?" And I don't remember. We probably had Red Robin or something.
I think he told us what to get. We were like,
Yeah.
"Can you please just help us out?"
Yeah. And then we got whatever it was.
But it was the funniest thing. And I think about that all the time because I'm like, if people see us when we're out like filming or like doing certain things and we're actually loving what we're doing, like we're having such a great time, we probably look upset with each other like half the time.
I think way less now than we used to, because we used to look, I know that my posture and the way that like I would concentrate and do that, I would look and be a lot more frustrated. I also know that a lot of the times I was always like leaning over, bending over and crouching and stuff. And like I wasn't as strong as I am now. And I know physically it hurt more.
Yeah.
It never hurt. It just was a lot more uncomfortable.
It was hard on your body.
Yeah, it was a lot harder on my body, especially if I brought like more equipment than the one camera.
Yeah.
So it was always a little bit more like discomfort and then frustration with you not explaining something to me, probably, or just it's hot. I don't want to be outside. It's tough.
It's always the most jarring thing when you see someone filming and they're like having a very serious discussion with someone and then they like turn it on for the camera and it's like so happy all of a sudden and it's like, oh my gosh. But I know that feeling.
Yeah.
Like I know exactly how that feels, but it's so funny to actually see it. But like, okay, so when we obviously handle situations differently, and that is what makes all of this actually work. But in getting upset or passionate about something, we do handle things very differently. Like
You're saying the two of us separately handle it differently, or we together handle it differently?
Both.
Okay.
Like when we get into an argument, you like to solve it right away. Like you need to talk it out. I, on the other hand, would rather take a moment, like get away from you for a moment.
A moment is, I think, is being very, very short. No, you're not a like one moment, like, oh, give me 30 seconds. You're a give me a year. We'll revisit.
I wish. But then I've learned that that's not good. Like that's what I used to do. And then you end up with these situations where like 3 years later, you bring something up that happened 3 years ago. And the other person's like, what are you even talking about? Yeah, I've learned from that. I do not recommend that. But like, so you like to talk things out immediately. And I find myself, I'm a very good listener. This podcast is helping me talk more, but like I'm a very good listener and Taylor likes to talk. These are two very good matches because when he likes to talk it out, I sit and listen, and me sitting there listening is actually me taking that moment a lot of the time, which is good and bad because then you're like, are you even listening to me? Because you can see when I'm like glazed over.
Again, don't BS the BSer.
But
don't
that's our compromise. That's us like figuring out what works for us because I have to internalize a little bit before I actually present anything to you.
Yeah, one of my, I don't think you do this that much. Occasionally you still do this. And it used to drive me absolutely insane. But it's kind of, I won't say it's hereditary because it's definitely a learned thing. But your brother does it.
Okay.
And it's, her and her brother have a thought, anything. It does not need to be a big thought. It is just a thought. All motor functions cease.
Yeah.
We can be on like a warpath somewhere.
Which brother does this?
Derek.
Really?
100%. I can think of a lot of times where full stop, we're going dead, just in middle of his stride. Done.
I'm probably doing it with him because I don't even recall any of that.
You are always doing it with him. Yes, this is why I bring it up. It's really just frustrating because what you two always, again, you don't really do this that much anymore. It's very rare now. I think Disneyland has helped you not do that anymore because you can't stop in front of a crowd because then you just get trampled. That's an exaggeration, but you two both do it, and there's so many times where I can distinctly see the situation, and you both stop either in front of me or behind me, and if you stop behind me, you're usually trying to show me something. But I'm like, by the time you articulate you want to show me something, I'm like 8 paces beyond you, and you both are just like 100 feet away now trying to show me something on your phone, and I'm like, if you hadn't stopped walking. 1, we wouldn't be this far apart, and 2, that would be an easy conversation.
Well, like I do remember a lot. It must still happen. But when you make me laugh really hard, I can't walk. Like I remember this happening.
It doesn't happen as much. Yeah, it used to be that. It used to be anything that was like high brain function. You just could not you could not move. You would just
I couldn't.
stop.
And it took a while for him to be like, can you please keep walking? And I was like, I literally can't. Like I was stuck. And I know the feeling, and it's really funny. It makes me laugh now. But like one of my latest YouTube videos when we were in Vegas and I stopped because I saw the surface that looks smooth for skating.
Yeah.
I've gotten so many messages about that because they're like, oh my gosh, your face. Like that is a meme waiting to happen because you can see it in my eyes. I fully stopped. Taylor goes, why do you always do this? Like he makes a comment about it. And I'm like looking outside and I'm looking at this surface and my eyes are like, it's Christmas morning and I can't believe what I just saw. And the look, I have both of us on camera and you see the look in my face. I'm explaining, oh my gosh, that floor looks so smooth. And you're like, okay, like you accept it. You're like, okay, you can bring your skates next time. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But everyone's been sending me messages about that part of the video, which is so funny to me because it was just like a pure moment that made me laugh. But it's funny because you're like, why do you always do this? Because I completely stopped and just ignored what you were doing.
I think the only time that you do that brain stopping thing now is when you're filming with me, and the reason that I asked why you did that, not that it needs okay. The reason I said why do you stop is because you're trying to film the both of us talking about something, and you're filming the both of us, and then you get distracted, and I'm still walking next to you, and I have to walk like behind you to be in the camera to like be a part of it. And then all of a sudden, no warning, stop, and I'm 3 steps ahead of you, and now I'm not in the video anymore. If you watch the video, I pass, and then I have to come back, and I ask you why you did it, and you turn, but you're still distracted by the floor. That is the perfect example of this exact situation that I'm talking about, imagine it like 3 times as exaggerated, and that's the typical scenario where I'm paying less attention to how close you are to me.
Oh, man.
Which is so wild. I can't believe you do that.
I don't think I will ever stop getting distracted by something or completely like laughing really hard, and it doesn't work. Like I just can't move. It takes over my entire body.
That is very funny when that happens. It's not very. You got to do something really funny to make it work. I can't think of a situation or anything that has broken you like that.
I've been powering through recently. I've been like, I can feel it. When I laugh really hard and we're like walking somewhere, my steps they get really heavy.
Like you're in sand, or you're like in like cement blocks or something.
Yeah, because if I completely stop like I used to, I know you'll be long gone. Like
I'm not waiting for you. No, you'll catch up.
My little legs are so much shorter, so I'm just like, ugh.
Your legs are not that much shorter than mine, though.
No, but if you do look at our steps throughout the day, mine are like twice yours.
Yeah,
and yet my calories are half.
Well, that's what you get for being little. I don't know what to tell you. Can't really help.
It's the worst.
Yeah, but you also can't really trust how much
I know,
the watch.
You can only trust it so much.
Yeah.
But anyway, So yeah, going back to this, like having two people that are very passionate about things that they're doing and like feel very strongly, you're gonna get heated discussion about things.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
No matter what. But it is unfortunate that it happens typically at the end of the day.
I think only the situation that you're trying to include happens at the end of the day, because I can almost guarantee that if we look back at the last week, there's like in the morning, in the middle of the day, in the evening, in the morning, in the middle of the day.
The only ones I
evening.
remember are at night.
Right, because they're the only ones that you're holding on to long enough to remember. The rest of them, you're like, yeah, it didn't really matter. Which is the same conversation at night. You're just holding on to it more. But something that I was thinking about when you brought this up was a way to get out of it and a way to like help yourself not be frustrated or angry before bed to really mess up your whole next day. Because I totally know how that goes. It's like when you feel horrible and then you wake up the next day hoping that it kind of alleviated, and it did literally nothing except make it worse. And now you have another day of just kind of sitting in this weird feeling. And you're trying to get out of it, but you have a hard time getting out of it. The solution is breathe.
Breathing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I know. Everybody's eye rolling.
No, I feel very strongly about breathing.
Well,
luckily.
Yeah, well, we all do. But in that, I know that if you heard the breathe and you eye rolled, I agree. I totally get it. It's like, how do I just switch off being so upset? Like, how do I not just, like, what do you want me to do?
What is that character?
I don't know.
I like it.
I don't know.
He's fun.
How dare you? But like, I agree. You don't just switch it off. But what I can say, do it. Breathe. So like, take a second, feel all those emotions, be all those emotions, get overwhelmed, cry if you need to, be pissed off if you need to, whatever. But right after that, just sit on the edge of the bed and close your eyes and breathe.
Mm.
And when you're breathing, take 10 breaths. Not these short little, not this. No. We're doing in through your nose, out through your mouth, 10 times, count it, try to do every one after it slower.
Like holding it.
Yeah, just breathe all the way in and all the way out. Mm-hmm. Do that 10 times. If you can't do 10 times, do 3, do 5, whatever works, but just push yourself to do it. And I promise it's going to feel better, because honestly, not a single thing that you are upset about is more important than breathing. Because if you don't breathe, you won't be here. So
I remember like I started thinking about breathing along like a few years ago, and I realized this is all connected. I'm just now realizing, but I would like almost hold my breath like throughout the day, just in different scenarios. And I didn't realize I was doing it. And then I would have like a massive headache every day. And it took me vocalizing that, like, I have a headache or I feel weird or whatever for like weeks. And finally you were like, you know, that's not normal. Like, you shouldn't have a massive headache every day. Are you sure you're okay? Like, are you sure you're eating well enough, drinking enough water? Which probably not. But I was like, but this is normal. And you were like, you should maybe dive into that one a little bit more. And so I did, and I started like really focusing on breathing, and not just in scenarios of this when you're like mad or like need to calm yourself down, but just throughout the day, like taking a moment, even in conversation when you're working on something, like just to feel yourself breathing, just being conscious of it has helped dramatically throughout the day. Like just refocusing myself, recentering myself, and just realizing, oh, I'm human. I need to take a breath. I need to calm down.
Our lungs are there for a reason.
Yeah.
Gotta use them. Whether you want to or not. You gotta.
Wild.
I would also say that the next step after the breathing is say sorry. But if you're gonna say sorry, mean it.
Yeah.
You don't just be like, I'm sorry. No. Mean it. But also, like, I get it. Those are the two hardest words
they are.
ever. They're the easiest ones to say when you don't mean it. The hardest ones to say when you mean it. You get like the apple in your throat and all this just sucks. You're just like, oh man. It's like, but you have to mean it, but it might literally be the difference on whether or not that person has a better week, a better day, a better whatever, you know, and it might be almost nothing for you.
Yeah.
Right? Like sometimes pride gets really in the way of a lot of stuff. Pride mostly gets in the way of everything. I feel like with most arguments, it's all pride.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you can just be like, oh, I don't need the pride of this situation. Like, oh, this isn't going to affect me tomorrow, but it really might affect them tomorrow. So like, okay, well, I'll just set my pride aside. It doesn't matter.
I remember a few nights ago, I was the one who needed to apologize. And so I took my moments, however long it was, and then I did say I was sorry. And you were like, not in a place to be like, it's okay. Like you weren't there, but I saw that you like accepted my apology. And then it was like a few moments later, he like wanted to roll over and go to bed. And so he like wrapped his arm around me and I was like, okay, he forgives me. I was like, okay, thank goodness.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't need to, when you're on the receiving end of the sorry, sometimes you don't need to say it's fine or it's okay, but you need to just be like, And you can't do a rude because we're not stupid. People are pretty smart. You feel it when someone's being condescending or isn't willing to hear it. So
that's like the version of sending K.
Oh God, don't do it. Don't do it.
But you know when it's a K, like it's a hurried K, like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Or when it's a K.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I don't know how to explain that other than, well, Scarlett does that, so I think it's generational because she does it as that's her okay.
Yeah.
She doesn't spell it out. She doesn't do the O and the K. She just does K. And that's the same thing.
I go full out. I do OKAY.
You're a monster.
Am I? I
don't think I use okay very often. I think I say like cool.
Well, now you can just like the text.
Oh yeah, I pretty much remove that.
That sometimes is bad too. Reading through text is very hard.
Well, then don't read into it. Read it blatantly as it is. If you're going to put emotions behind it and the person didn't put the emotions behind it, well, guess what? You just created an argument.
It's true. It is true.
Just saying. I was thinking about, because you mentioned that you're not an angry person.
Yeah.
You're a sad person.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're angry, what kind of anger is it?
Okay, so that's a great question. Growing up, my dad was a karate instructor. And so when I say I like to hit things, it's not what people would usually think from that statement. Like, I'm not a violent person. I wouldn't say I am. But if you put a punching bag in front of me, oh, that is the best. Like, growing up, whenever I was mad about anything, I would go into the garage and spend like 15 minutes hitting the punching bag.
And you wonder why you have bad wrists.
So that is one thing we do argue about. I want a punching bag so bad.
She's never going to get it.
And Taylor's like, no, Nicole, you have arthritis. And I'm like, yeah, but it would be so much better for the both of us if I could just...
Nope.
No?
No, it would not. Because what would not be good for the both of us, if you have Barbie hands and you're trying to show off choreography and you got these Barbie hands doing these moves.
So real talk, the doctor told me.
Real talk, huh? The rest of this wasn't real?
Fair. The doctor told me the only way to fix my wrists was to fuse them together. I don't know how he worded it. Fuse the wrist. Meaning I wouldn't be able to bend it forward and back, side to side. He said that's the only way to fix it. And I was like, what? That's not an option.
So you just become when you wave to people, it's this.
Yes.
It's just like a side. You just become an animatronic.
And then I would probably develop arthritis in my elbow from moving it like that. So then,
tennis elbow.
Yeah. So obviously not an option, but.
That doesn't sound fun. Also,
I like to hit things.
Yeah, but also like you just working out more and strengthening your forearms.
Yeah.
And everything. You don't really have the arthritis anymore, huh? Yeah. Well, maybe for those of you that are having like pain of things, it pains me to say this, honestly, a little bit.
Especially coming from you.
Coming from me, this should mean a lot to you. Go work out.
Ooh.
Please. I know it hurts. Go work out. Go do something. Go do full body exercises, full body workouts, and don't do it once. Make it a lifestyle. I can promise you, I had like hip problems and I like
back problems.
I had back problems and I like tore my hamstring, or I don't even know if I tore it. I think I might have tore my hamstring. No one could figure out what the problem was because I didn't have enough muscle to even like show it. No one could find it. No one could find the problem. No one could explain to me what was wrong. Turns out I go work out a bunch. Every single one of my problems that I had is completely gone. The only thing I did different, exercise and gain more muscle. The only thing.
And like with my wrist, before like a handle picking up a mug, it hurt like bad. And mine is from an injury when I was 11. I'm
pretty sure it's from you punching.
It is not. It can't be.
You said you did it all the time. So I think if you did it bare fists and no like support for your wrists, I would see a full reason that would be what the problem is.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not convinced.
I'm not going to blame it on one little injury that you didn't claim to do well.
My injury, I didn't do well.
Yeah.
I did it real well.
I don't know. But
yeah, no more pain. I got stronger and the pain went away. There is like slight pain when I do like when I lift something heavy with one hand.
I mean,
but
also same.
Yeah.
It's called like using your muscles or using your body beyond its ability.
But honestly, I know like how to tighten my arm up a little bit better now, like use my bicep instead. And so
you can move where the weight sits.
Do you remember the one day I was gardening? We had like the planter out there and I like lost it because it hurt so bad. I was trying to be tough and like keep going and like pour the dirt. I was like trying to help you. And it hurts so bad. That was like the height of the pain. That was finally when I was like, I should probably go to the doctor and get this checked out. But,
since you're not going to ask, I'll just say it. I want to believe that I'm not an angry person. And part of me would say that it's up for debate, but I would, if I had a say in it, I would say I'm no longer an angry person.
I would agree with that.
Yes.
That's success. That's a big step.
Until I am.
So there was a period of time where Taylor, he just like became angry. And it was, I understand how it is all connected now that we're out of it, because it was a lot of like creative struggle. Like he was not creating the way he wanted to create. He was frustrated with different work things. He was just in a bad place internally and it was coming out as anger. And it was never the hard part when you're in a situation like this, like in a relationship, when you know you're not the cause of it, yet you feel like you're the cause of it. Yeah. And so it took a lot of discussion of like, what are you actually mad at? And even now, like with things, we have to be like, wait, what are you mad at? What are you like feeling this way? What is causing it? Because it is oftentimes not the thing you think.
Yeah. That's a real, you have to be able to communicate it. I feel like, well, I wouldn't have communicated it unless you would ask, because I would just be mad.
Yeah.
Right. And like in that, you're just mad. But I would say that I'm not even remotely a violent person.
No, you're not.
I will kill a fly. So I can't use that analogy. Flies drive me absolutely bananas. But
flies do drive him insane.
Oh God, they make me so angry.
Luckily we have cats that will play with them, but they don't really.
Hardly. They're the wimpiest little
I know,
players.
But it's fun. It's cute.
Yeah, but I'm not a violent person. I'm also not an angry violent person. And anger does not lead to violence for me.
But have you ever punched a punching bag?
Honestly, that does not sound fun.
Oh my gosh, it is so much fun.
I just think about the force of the impact in it stopping, and then I see a visual of like the ripple of a slow motion of what like your skin and muscle and everything does, and then I feel the pain that it would push, or like the stress that it would put on my elbow joint, and then the stress on my shoulder joint, and I go, I don't desire this in my life.
You're far too intelligent to punch things.
I don't do good with action sports. Yeah, I don't. But if you want to know my anger, you know my anger.
I do.
But if the world, my anger is scorched earth through words.
Yeah.
If you get me there, I will hit you where it counts with words. You will have no idea where it came from. You will have no idea how I knew how to hit you there. It will hurt you for the next rest of your life, probably. And if it's not the rest of your life, it's at least a year. You know, like if it's really, and like if you really truly get me there, I will burn the bridge. And I don't care if I'm on fire on the bridge with you burning it. We are burning the bridge.
The fact that you know that, you're aware of it is really amazing, because I don't think you used to be aware of that.
I've been aware. Yeah, I've been aware of it for a long time, but it took a while to catch it.
Yeah.
And then when I caught it, I was like, well, why would I go far? But I can say that like that anger getting all the way there is like not even a handful of times.
Yeah.
Like it's very few, but if you do get me there, be prepared that you are going to feel emotional distress for a long period of time. And I just think of it kind of like if you've seen the Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr., where they have the scenes where it's like they have the guy, and right before he goes and attacks him, he knows what's coming. He knows how the scene is going to change and where like the guy's going to throw a punch or throw something. And he tells you,
cool.
It's so cool. I love those scenes. And he tells you like what he's going to do, how he's going to do it, when he's going to do it, the emotional damage, the physical damage, the recovery time, and all that. It's a little exaggerated for my brain, but honestly, when I start to go down that path of like mad, that is how my brain functions. My brain literally goes through that process, and my words are calculated, and my words are ready to just full send like that Sherlock Holmes thing.
Which is very impressive.
It's not,
and terrifying.
It's kind of a subconscious thing. It's really not it's not like I'm like, okay, here we go. Now it's time to be Sherlock Holmes. It's literally like, we're here. I already know. I don't have to worry about it. We will go. Let's go all the way.
I think that's huge to know what kind of angry you are, or like what kind of upset you are, so that not only you can have control of it or hopefully gain control of it, which I think has been part of the process of you not being as angry, is you know how to control it more. And I feel like you do learn how to control it more and more.
Yeah.
But it's not just that, it's also being able to communicate that to another person, like to your family, to your loved one, like whoever it is, being able to communicate that, because then they will hopefully not use that against you. They'll actually appreciate that and accept that and figure out a way to communicate with you better, because that's all it is like being aware of how the other person is, how they may react, all of that, not assuming, but being aware of it, so that you can actually contribute to when that is happening instead of making it worse.
Yeah, that you have to respect the person to a degree. Or rather, if you don't want to use the word respect, you just have to care about them a tiny bit.
Yeah.
And it's not a lot of care to not like poke and push the buttons. It's like if you have siblings, you know where their buttons are. You know how to light them up. You know where the easiest way is just do the one thing.
Yeah.
Or just don't do the one thing and everybody has a better time.
Yeah.
Right? Like it really is that straightforward. But if you have a vendetta off and you want that and that's what gets you going, by all means, I guess do it. But don't invite me. I don't want to be around it. But everyone is different. And having that little bit of care and that little bit of respect. And typically if you're in a relationship, you do care.
Yeah.
And you do respect. So understand that you're different than the other person. Both of your perspectives are different and they're both right. And I've noticed that like in dealing with like your emotions or our conversations or whatever, that it really comes down to sometimes you have to be okay with not doing what works for you so that you can help the other person cope with whatever it is, whether it's anger or frustration, sadness, whatever it is. Sometimes you have to just be like, this is not at all how it's going to work for me. And I'm so mad, but it is their anger and frustration that cannot let go until I help.
Like putting the other person before you.
Yes.
In that moment.
Yes. And it's really just being like, look, you have to just sometimes be like in the situations of you would rather not say anything and just sit there. And sometimes I just have to be like, I am going to explode if I do not have a conversation. But if I just give her a minute, it should be fine. It's like,
is this when you tell me to go for a lap?
No, I'm rarely upset on the lap ones. Usually you're too in your head and I go, you need to just go walk around. You also use the go for a lap like I do it to you every day. No, it's usually you're filming something or you're on skates and you're in your head too much. So you need to go do something that distracts you for a second, even if it doesn't fully distract you, and then you come back and you do it great.
Yeah.
That's usually what it is. And I learned that from recording and music and like working with people in a studio. It's like when you're trying to play the exact same thing over and over again and you're so in your head about playing it right that you need to just like pause, do something else, play something else, play your favorite song, play your favorite thing that you've written or whatever. Now come back and redo it. Like not like 30 seconds later, redo it. And it's like stellar.
Yeah.
It's a weird brain thing.
Time.
Yeah. It's almost frustrating that it works too. Cause you're like, I don't want to take a lap. I just want to do the thing. I want to get it done. And you're like, well, actually, if I do the lap, it's going to be faster. But in that, like also on the flip side of like, taking the loss and letting the other person like cope and you being there for the other person, sometimes you have to be the one to push for what you need and show the like vulnerability of like, no, I need this now.
Yeah.
Like I need it.
And
I know we're arguing. And it doesn't need to be a blatant thing. Like people are good at picking up subtleties, you know, especially in an argument. Like think about a text. You put a period in the wrong spot and now somebody's upset. Put a thumbs up instead of a heart and now somebody's upset. So you can read into it. If you think you're not capable, I promise you are, because you've definitely read a text the wrong way.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Or the right way.
But also that's but that's a fine line too.
Yeah.
As like, if you both are pushing too hard that you both need it, one of you has to take the loss.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to just be like, either we're going to keep going at this and this isn't going to go anywhere, or I'll just take the loss right now and we can have a conversation later, another time that like I did that. But you can't hold it against them either. You can't be like, well, I helped you, so you got to help me. That's not how life works.
It also doesn't make you a weaker person.
No, not at all. You're not weaker by being there for someone.
Yeah.
You're not a weaker person for caring for somebody.
Never.
That's not how that works. And also you might learn something. You might literally be in there and you might be like, oh, that's how you were feeling. Oh, I was feeling the same thing about the same thing. So we're talking about the same, we agree on the same thing. We're talking about it wrong. I got it.
That's
okay.
The best when you're arguing for 15 minutes and then you go, wait, no, that's what I'm saying. And it's like, wait, that's what I'm saying.
No, that makes me so mad. That grinds my gears. That grinds them so hard.
I think that is yes, it is bad when you're in it, but I think that is the best outcome when you're like, wait, we were just saying it different ways. Okay, cool.
It just makes me think of a Star Wars quote, and it's from the prequels. I don't remember which episode, but it's when, I think it's episode 2. It's when they're like going down the hallway and they get caught in a like force shield thing. So basically they're like kidnapped or trapped. And Obi-Wan goes, wait a minute, we're better than this. And that's how I feel whenever that conversation happens and we're talking about the same thing or arguing about or just mad at each other and it's the exact same thing we're trying to say to each other, but neither of us are hearing it. That's what I hear in my head. That's the scene that plays in my head. And I just am so frustrated that it exists because I'm like, we're better than this. We knew better than to do this. We shouldn't have been in this situation. How did we not know to not be here?
And I was like, I love you. I love you too.
You're like, fine. Okay, well, I'm going to go work now. Okay, so
It's exactly how it goes.
It's probably actually pretty much exactly how it goes.
Oh, speaking of, that's not a segue
Speaking
at
of,
all.
what are you segueing
I was
to?
going to ask you what you want for lunch.
I would like food, but more importantly, I would like coffee because I am running on fumes today.
Yeah, we've both acknowledged that we both woke up very tired, but this is the first time we've recorded in the morning. Is it still morning? Oh, it's not still morning.
Well, it was morning when we started.
Yeah.
So
I'm proud of us.
Cheers to that. Now,
Can we actually cheers?
Sure, there you go. Boom.
I'm using my holiday cup.
Yes, you sure are.
It used to live in my holiday stuff, and I took it out because I said, this makes me happy every day, not just the holidays.
And it doesn't matter what time of year she uses it, and it is her holiday cup, and she would probably prefer that cup over any other cup always.
This is true.
And, she's one of those people that if there wasn't an HOA, there would be Christmas lights on the house all year round, and they would be on at night.
Not because of laziness, because of happiness.
Yeah, no, she would take the nice thing and make it not nice anymore.
For you.
No.
Should we end this? We should end this episode with an argument.
Think about what we've talked about on how you have to have an ebb and a flow, and you have to have some of a good thing and some not of a good thing so that you can enjoy the good thing more. If you have the good thing all year round, you don't enjoy the good thing all the time. That's why there's Christmas in July on Hallmark,
Yes.
and there's Christmas in Christmas on Hallmark.
But I enjoy my holiday cup all year round.
Yeah, sure, great. That's awesome. It still puts coffee in there, and it still puts it in your face, and then you have energy. It's great.
You're great.
I would like more coffee in my face, please.
Let's do it.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this. If you would like to get episodes early and exclusive content, you can get a membership at glitteringcatlitter.com or on my YouTube channel.
And we'll see you next time.